You are watching WPTV, award-winning college television.
Welcome back to the desk. A brand new season of William Patterson Sports is back, and here to break down the Pioneer football team is Daniel Karp, Matt Goldman, Matt Jinks, and Cole Jarvis. Gentlemen, the Pioneers got their first win of the season on the road against McDaniel College, in large part because of the freshman Nigel Jennings. Daniel, take us through Nigel's game.
Damn right, Coop. The freshman southpaw comes in, steps up, 11 completions for 20, 153 passing yards for 2 touchdowns, and 48 rushing yards. Very early, Nigel Jennings coming here and showing that he could be a dual-threat quarterback. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely. And great start for the freshman to get reps as quarterback. Matt Jinks, I'll start off with you. What led to the Pioneers' 27 offensive explosion?
Well, Coop, I believe it was the passing game. As you said, Nigel Jennings had a great game with 2 passing touchdowns, and Aria had a passing touchdown compared to McDaniel's 0 and 3 interceptions. Just in simple terms, the Pioneers were much more efficient when it came to scoring down when you got down the field. Yeah.
Goldie, Jinx talked about the passing game. Where are you going with this one?
I'm going to go with the rushing attack. Isaac Cherry had 14 carries for 62 yards. Season highs for him. Nigel Jennings having 12 carries for 48 yards. And then Kyrie Hinton, who's generally a wide receiver for us, had 4 carries for 37 yards. And Eric Groundacre with his first touchdown of the season. The rushing attack propelled him to victory. So,
yeah, Cole?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the decision-making and the play calling. I think that Coach Sean Williams put in a good system for Nigel Jennings this past week, and I think he executed it perfectly. They incorporated a little orbit motion option that really opened up the defense, and it's going to allow for some nice seams to open up down the stretch.
Yeah, that decision-making was great in that game. Daniel, finish us off here.
I'm going to go with diversity of receivers. 12 completions in the entire game, went to 7 different receivers. When you have a lot of receivers getting the ball, you're going to have the defense on their toes. You're not going to know where the ball is going. Shout out to Caleb Rippey. 2 receptions, 90 yards with 2 touchdowns, and a long of 62, so I had a little Randy Moss game for him.
You know, Caleb Rippey, he's from my town. I watched him play football at Jefferson Township High School, so he's a pretty good player. But other than the Nigel Jennings and the offense, their defense put up a season low of 14 points. Cole, take us inside the Pioneers defense.
Yeah, they were lights out. They had 4 sacks, 3 interceptions, 11 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. It's just a recipe for success.
Yeah, Daniel, I'll go over to you now. What stood out about the Pioneer defense?
What stood out to me was Kwamir Green with big tackles. He had 12 tackles versus McDaniel, was obviously a career high for him, and 4 tackles that the ball carrier had was within 3 yards. So he was making big tackles at big times, and they weren't getting much yards on him. So shout out to Kwamir Green for tackle machine.
Yeah, he was making those clutch tackles. Jinx?
What stood out the most to me were the interceptions. We had 3 interceptions this game, the most out of any game throughout the season, because of the first 2 games we didn't have any. So to really turn over the ball was something I feel like we were lacking in the past 2 games, and to really get the defense going, I feel like really put us in position to score more of this game.
Yeah, turnovers, like if you get those turnovers, it can really help you out. Goldman?
I'm going to go with the linebacker performances. Samad Wingo, who's pretty much the leader of this team, he had 5 tackles, 2 for a loss, and a sack. Jace Harmon, he had 7 tackles, 3 for a loss. Nehemiah Kalibo, he had 4 tackles, 1 for a loss. And then a freshman, Terrell Yankson, he had 5 tackles, 1 for a loss, and 1 sack. The linebacker performance, they fired on all cylinders, and that's a great job to win.
Yep. Cole?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure and the sacks really got to McDaniel's quarterback in a bad way. But what I'm getting at is the front 7 getting the pressure at that quarterback and forcing those sacks. It opened up other things like the interceptions like you guys were talking about. So I think as long as you get the pressure back to the quarterback, you have a recipe for success once again. I mean, we said it earlier. That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Other than the Pioneers' great win, they were still 1-2 on the season, losing to FDU in their season opener and the home opener against Dickinson College. Daniel, Cole, rather, what do the Pioneers still need to improve on?
Complementary football. They got to be good on all 3 sides of the ball: special teams, offense, and defense. If you play good complementary football, you're more than likely going to win the game. They need to make sure that offensively they take care of the football, and defensively that they make sure that they keep that offense honest. Special teams, you got to be able to make the kicks. Other than that, it shouldn't be much of an issue.
Yeah. Daniel?
I'm going to go with the offensive line and giving the quarterback time. Pretty straightforward. I mean, the other day I was watching some film the other day. Jennings had a lot of time in the pocket, and when he didn't, he was making good decisions rolling out. And that offensive line is super young. A lot of freshmen on that offensive line. We talk about Spencer Rabitsky. He's about 6'6". We saw him the other day at practice. He had a really nice game. So it's just a lot of the freshmen are showing positive signs very early on for this offensive lineman, and it's going to lead this offense to success.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that the freshmen are getting time to really understand the offense, too. That will help out, too. Jinks?
I'm gonna talk about the offense. You know, it was the best offensive game we had yet, but I feel like there's still room for improvement. The running game wasn't that much of a factor. It would be great to see them going. And in the last quarter, we punted the ball 4 times. I feel like we had many more opportunities to really blow the game open because it was only a 2-possession game at the end of the day.
Yeah, capitalizing on those turnovers and turning that into offense is great. Goldie?
I'm going to go with the mental mistakes. We had 3 fumbles and 1 interception. You can't do that against a gritty team like Kean. And mistakes will eat us alive, so we can't do that. We've got to be more efficient offensively. And we did score 27 points. That's awesome, our season high. Just got to be more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, being efficient, capitalizing on those mental mistakes, it will really help you as a team. But guys, the Pioneers take on Kean next week, and down in Union. Matt, tell us a little bit about how these two teams compare with one another, because the Pioneers, you know, got the best of them when they came down to Whiteman Stadium.
It was a dominant performance. The Pioneers, even though they had less yards than the Cougars, 120 to 240, they ended up being able to score 21 points. They beat them in rushing yards 108 to 54, had more first downs, 17 to 15, and turned over the ball twice compared to the Cougars 1 time.
Yeah, I mean, this is a momentum game for the Pioneers. They have this momentum coming off the McDaniel win. So Goldie, I'll go over to you. How can the Pioneers keep that momentum rolling heading into this game?
They got to let the freshmen cook. Nigel Jennings, 153 passing yards, 48 rushing yards last week. And Terrell Yankson, 5 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a sack. Jennings was the NJAC Offensive Rookie of the Week, and we also had the NJAC Defensive Rookie of the Week with Joseph Presley. He had 4 tackles, 2 for a loss, and a sack. You got to let these freshmen play, and I'm excited to see what we do.
I mean, yeah, it's letting the freshmen play, and I think that's like I've been saying, getting the freshmen time to learn that offense and learn that defense is amazing wherever they play. Cole, I'm going to you now. What do you think? How do you think the Pioneers can, use this game as momentum?
I just think they need to just be aggressive and go out there and really play their game and stick to what they've been good at up to this season. Last week was a very big step for them in terms of running the ball, passing the ball, and even playing defense. So I think if they just watch that film and really hone in on what they did really well there, that they can go in there and take care of Kean.
Yeah, I mean, if they just stick to the game, they're absolutely in good shape.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Karp?
I'm going to talk about Isaac Cherry. I want him to keep them where he's at. Very deserving the spot, which he got last year. A lot more consistent carries. Last year, one game we've seen him have 25, and then the next game we've seen him have 10. But this year, he's been much more consistent within that 8 to 12 range. And he's on the verge of a breakout run. His high run this year is only 21. So I see him getting on the verge of getting a big 50, 60-yard run. And he's averaging 4.5 yards per carry this year, which is an improvement from 3.8 from last year.
Yeah, I mean, seeing that improvement from Isaiah Cherry is amazing, and it's going to propel this team forward. Jinks finishes off.
I feel like they need to set a tone like they did last year. The defense was dominant with 6 sacks and an interception, only allowing 9 total points. And I feel that tone coming with last game. We were really good defensively. I feel like that could set a trend, and we need to keep that momentum going into next game.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the time we have for William Patterson football today. Stay tuned as we move over to the diamond and talk baseball with the MLB guys next.